Once again, no time to waste, so let's get straight on with reviewing To Change a Changeling. Starlight and Trixie make a surprise visit to see Thorax in the Changeling Kingdom, but are unceremoniously welcomed by being bagged and delivered to him by his brother Pharynx. One of the last remaining changelings to have still not embraced their new way of life, his disruptive attitude puts pressure on Thorax as the rest of the Hive want him exiled, leaving it up to Starlight and Trixie to help Pharynx embrace the changes and win back their trust. Kevin Lapin returns to write this episode, which I guess could also pass as the first episode of the often joked about Starlight Glimmer show, given that she and Trixie are the only ponies here. For only the third time in the show's history, we have an episode that doesn't feature any of the main six. As for how it holds up, it's a pretty strong offering overall. The first thing that is immediately admirable here is how we get our first real glimpse inside the Changeling's home since Chrysalis was defeated. And it is really nice how they've been able to make a more colourful and joyful home for themselves and adapt to a peaceful and harmonious society. A sequence during the second act where they all gather together to express their feelings in something of a therapeutic way is quite sweet and humorous to watch in relation to this as well. That is, of course, except for Pharynx, who detests the way things have changed, wants them to go back to the old days, and frequently causes trouble to those who cross his path. At first he just seems like your typical stick in the mud, but behind his abrasive attitude and appearance, there is an intriguing character there. You quickly learn that he used to be a patroller for the Hive, making sure they remain tough and intimidating enough to see off any and all threats, including one raging monster known as a mole wolf that they're preparing for and that we see later on. But since the changelings now coexist peacefully with ponies and other creatures in Equestria, his job has effectively been made redundant. From this perspective, I get the impression that he acts out like he does because he's no longer required to be the one and only thing he's been brought up to be, and as a result, he doesn't know what to do with his life now or how to readapt. This is where having Starlight and Trixie be the story protagonists was definitely a smart choice, since both of them understand the difficulty of having to readapt, but also know the benefit it's had on their lives. So with the right characters and an engaging conflict in place, what are the other things that do and don't work about the episode? Well, primarily, it's kinda the same issue that Lapin showed with his last episode, Honest Apple. The way he writes the main characters isn't necessarily awful. In fact, a fair amount of the time it's actually rather good. But it is kinda uneven, and when it falls short in this department, it's very noticeable. For example, Starlight definitely has understandable concerns when she and Trixie try unsuccessfully to convince Pharynx to accept the changes. But even though she does acknowledge that it goes against what Twilight has taught her, it doesn't quite seem right to actually suggest that he's a lost cause, and Thorax might have to force him out for the good of the Hive. Even though they do have a tenuous relationship with him, he is still part of the family. And while Pharynx may not like or understand the changes the Hive has made, and might make lives difficult for other changelings, he hasn't turned his back on them. Also of particular significance is a flashback scene where Thorax talks about his relationship with his brother when they were growing up.
Step away from my brother.
But Pharynx never let them hurt me.
We were just complimenting his dollies!
Thanks, Pharynx.
Why are you hitting yourself?
Stop hitting yourself! Why are you hitting yourself?
Ouch!
Cut it out, Pharynx.
They're right, you know. You need to have tougher skin.
Aw, that was a really sweet story. Until the end.
It shows that Pharynx really does care, and it isn't until after he's led to believe that the Hive doesn't want him around that he decides to leave. Starlight has another case of an idea that sounded good in her head but ends up being terrible in execution, when she uses the food that the changelings have left out to divert the mole wolf monster, to instead lure it towards their lair, with the idea being that Pharynx will show his good side by instantly jumping in to save them from the incoming danger. Again, not a bad idea in theory, but for some pony as smart as she is, Starlight really should have thought it through better. But while it nearly could have all gone catastrophically wrong, the exciting climax does see everyone come together to fight off the monster. Before then, there's a terrific scene where just before she leaves with Trixie and Thorax to find Pharynx, Starlight gives the reluctant changelings a great and powerful motivational speech to inspire them to think and stand up for themselves, only for it to hilariously backfire when nobody joins them. The episode concludes as Pharynx and the Hive both come to realise and state that they really do love and value each other, even if they don't always understand or see eye to eye on everything, effectively providing a message that can prove to be very relatable for all families. Compared with his first episode, Kevin Lapin's second is a step forward. It still carries a few of the same flaws, namely characters not always being written and utilised that well, but all things considered, To Change a Changeling still holds up as another very solid and enjoyable episode. I'm going to give it a gold star score of 8 out of 10. So those were my thoughts. Now once again, it's over to you. Let me know your thoughts on To Change a Changeling down in the comments. And before I go, I just want to give a shout out to everyone who clearly loves seeing ponies partying to Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars, because my Uptown Funk PMV just passed 1 million views this week. In all the years I've been doing video production, I have never had a video reach this milestone before, and I'm exceptionally happy and thankful for the reception and continued support, so thank you all very much. And thank you all as always for watching this review. Until next time, keep shining on, every pony.